here we are. Here we are, folks. Now we're officially live on all of our formats. And what a great day. You know what? It is Friday. Friday. And I hope that you're having a great Friday. Yeah. See, the thing behind me, normally I don't put it up, but I thought, you know what? On Fridays I do. Because it's Paranormal Fridays. You know, you gotta enjoy, you gotta have fun, you gotta have, it's not always serious and focused. And so I like the background, I like the paranormal kind of a unique feel to it. So I like it, even though there's a little pumpkin there, right there, but that's okay. No, you guys can't see, there's a pumpkin right there, right over here. There you go. All right, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So anyway, there we are. We appreciate you guys being here. So a couple things. First of all, I'm Bishop James Long with the United States Old Catholic Church. I want you to make sure you go to our website, or not the church's website, but kgradb.com. Those are the folks that sponsor the show. So KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. Now, they have some really fantastic shows there. This show airs on KGRADB as well. And you subscribe. It's very inexpensive to subscribe. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to make sure you put Bishop as your promo code. If you put Bishop as your promo code, you're going to get 30% off your subscription. So again, make sure you kind of show them the love because, they do pay for the platform for me to come on and do the Bible studies, to do the Friday shows, to do the Saturday shows. I think that's very nice. That's very, very kind of them. So make sure, please go to kgradb.com. And just put Bishop as your promo code. Okay. Also, I want you, if you want to, you can go to my website, bishopjameslong.com. I do have the store up now. So if you want to go to the store, you can click on the store link and you can purchase whatever items you want to purchase there. One of my favorites, I got to tell you, is and I've talked about this before, is the Benedictine necklace. It's the rope necklace. So here's mine. And it's on both sides. It's a metal. It really is a nice necklace. And so that's available for you. And what I like about this is it has a little, you can move it up or down depending on how tight you want it around your neck. So I like the fact that it's adjustable. So yeah, go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the store link. And there it is. Now, also, if you want to go to the church's website, the church's website is fairly easy. It's usocc.org. That's it, usocc.org. And you can check us out and stop by. And if you do want to donate to the ministry, just scroll all the way down to the very bottom on usocc.org and click, and you'll see it where it says, please donate. You can donate. We have a lot of ministries that we do, and we're self-funded. And so if you want to help, that's wonderful. If not, that's fine too. Just keep us in your prayers, and that would be great. So I appreciate that very, very much. Okay, so that is a purple. Well, it's not purple. I don't have purple on right now. Okay. So anyway, welcome everybody. I appreciate it. Today is Paranormal Friday, where we talk about anything and everything that is related to the paranormal. Now, look, here's the deal, guys. If you don't like the paranormal, then why are you in here? So, just really seriously, why? I'm not going to apologize because I love the paranormal. I do. I'm not going to apologize to anybody for it. I've always enjoyed the paranormal. But I also, what I do as an exorcist, it's not paranormal. That's not what I do. What I do is theological, because I deal with demonic issues. So when someone comes to me and says, look, I have an issue in their home, we send a team out. And the team go out and investigate. They determine based on the evidence that they capture. And then we decide, the clergy decides, we decide what we're going to do and how we're going to handle the case. It's here's what again, so let me say this one more time. What I do is not complicated. It was what Christ commanded his disciples to do. So people who say they don't believe in demons and yet they call themselves Christians, well, then Christ, that was actually a ministry that Christ bestowed upon his disciples to cast out demons. So demonic entities exist, whether people like it or not, whether people believe in it or not. And a lot of people who have legitimate issues in their home They have no one to turn to. And there's a lot of people who like to attack paranormal teams and say that they're doing the work of the devil, but yet those people are not the ones answering the phones at 2 o'clock in the morning, are they? Those people are not the ones getting in their car, driving 8 or 9 hours to somebody's home whom they don't even know to investigate to determine if the activity is legitimate or not. They're the ones not doing it, are they? But yet what they are doing is criticizing the people who actually are going to people's homes and who are not charging one penny, who are trying to explain what is occurring, to try to debunk what is occurring. And then when they can't debunk it, then they give it to clergy and say, look, we need your help here. You see, if you don't understand if that's a ministry, then you don't understand ministry. But there's always people on the sidelines that like to throw stones at people who actually answer the phone calls at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And they like to judge them and condemn them, but they're not the ones who answer the calls. They're not the ones getting in their car. They're not the ones actually paying out of their own pocket to travel 8 or 9 hours to people's homes whom they don't even know and yet have the desire to want to help. Now, if you don't understand that that's ministry, then you don't understand ministry at all. We don't charge. I've never charged one penny in over 20 years. I don't work with any team, no team. If they charge, I want nothing to do with them. Nothing. So the teams actually spend a lot of money and they gather, they're the ones that buy the equipment. The equipment is not cheap. And they gather all the equipment. They gather, they get in their car. They travel, they spend a lot of money to get to these people's homes. They don't owe these people anything, but yet they do it out of the goodness of their heart. And they travel to people's homes and they investigate. And then they find out, okay, what's going on in this home? Can we debunk the activity or let's validate it? And then if they can validate, then they send it to me and say, here's the evidence. This is serious. And then I get involved. And people say, well, why don't you do it in the beginning? Because I don't have a private plane. I can't get to every single person who has asked me for help. And I've showed this before. I have over 8,000 messages, emails now. 8,000. And now that the show, yes, we have a show coming out, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Now that that is out, now the emails are 8,986 in 2 days. Well, you guys can't see it, but because it's blurry, the camera, but it's 8,986 emails in 2 days. And that's people asking me to go help. Now, people say, well, I thought the Catholic Church doesn't like this. Again, let me go slower. In order for us to determine if a case is valid, we have to have investigators investigate the case. They have to prepare the evidence. That requires networking with teams who are experienced to go into someone's home to gather the data to determine if something is valid or not. I cannot say it any slower. I think most people understand it. Truly, I do. So that's what we do. And that's how we help. And we do not, again, people criticize, but yet they never help. It's easy to throw stones and criticize somebody who's actually doing the work. That's easy. So I just don't pay attention to those people. So, okay. Yeah. So there we go. I just like, okay. But I'm going to keep doing what I'm going, because here, and by the way, I'll say this. I've been in the paranormal field for a long time. And about 15 years ago, I had some real bad haters. I mean, some real serious haters that went on social media and said some really nasty things. I mean, just really nasty things. And called me all kinds of names, but my name. They moved into a house that became a very violent activity. Very violent. And they actually called me. Now, these are the people who went online and called me a fraud and a fake and phony, and all, even though I've never charged them a penny in my life. And they called me all kinds of names. I mean, just it was terrible. But they called me. And Bishop Long, I'm sorry. I know that you don't like me. I know you hate my guts, and I know you don't want to speak to me and all the whole spill. I moved into a home, and I'm frightened. My family is frightened, and I want to know if you can help. Now, I have two choices. I could have said, you know what? All the things that you went online and said some nasty things about me, you called me everything in the book. Every name in the book. I don't want anything to do with you. Go away. Or I could say, okay, I understand, and I'll help. And that's what I did. And that's what I'll continue to do. So the people who are the naysayers, I promise you, tomorrow they will call me when they need help. And it's happened time and time and time again. So, no, the headaches are, that's a good question, though, Penny. The headaches are actually related to concussions that I suffered while I played football. I played football back in the 80s, and so we didn't have, concussions were not something that we understood. And, you had a concussion, you just got back in the game. I mean, he was like, come on, you can get back in the game, walk it off. I'm like, walk it off, I'm seeing 3, but yeah, that's what we did. I played for a long time, and I got concussion because I played on the line. I was a lineman, and we hit hard. I mean, we hit hard in the helmets. We didn't stand up and block. We actually went on 4-point stand, and we hit as hard as we could. And so that's why, it's one of those things. Okay. Oh yeah, you beat my brother up. Yeah, you wish. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, little cats in a fiddle. All right, so all those folks who are fiddling away, I hope that you're having a great night and enjoying yourself. I'm sure you're just fiddling on the computer and fiddling away and having a great time. Welcome to Paranormal Fridays, where we talk about anything and everything that's related to the paranormal field. Now, on the top of the hour at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll take your questions regarding the demonology and the paranormal or whatever you want to talk about. We'll talk about. But the first hour, we're going to talk something about a topic that I absolutely love. Absolutely love. And it's a particular topic that I talked to my sister about this earlier before we went on air. The Dyatlov Pass incident. Now, folks, I got to tell you something. This is one case that has driven me crazy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to... Okay, I tell you what, I'm going to answer your questions, I promise you. On TikTok, on social media, I will answer all your questions at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is about 45 minutes from now. I just ask that you indulge me for a moment, and let's learn about some of these cases that I want to share with you, and then we'll get to your questions at the top of the hour. No. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good, folks. I'm just letting everybody know. There's a lot of people asking questions, by the way, so it's not. Please keep in mind, I'm running 3 different computers at the same time. So, folks on here on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRDB, Radio, and Spreaker, and then Clapper here. So I have 3 different computers. So, and for those of you who are liking the video on TikTok, thank you. For those of you who are offering gifts to the ministry, thank you. And I apologize for not thanking each one of you personally, but sometimes I just can't see it because I'm looking at 3 different computers. Okay. The Dyatlov Pass incident is really, really crazy. Oh, yeah. Yes. June 1st. June 1st, Eli Roth presents Legion of Exorcist. It's on the Travel Channel. I'm a cast member, and it's going to appear then on the Travel Channel. There's already people saying some nasty things. People who are in the paranormal community. So let me just say this first. People, if you're in the paranormal community and you're already attacking the show and even the cast, you should be ashamed of yourself. You really should, because you haven't seen the show. You don't know the cast. And for you anybody who's in the paranormal field to already attack the show without even seeing it, and then to attack the clergy who are telling our stories, your credibility is 0. Now, you can certainly say after you see the show, you can say, well, I like it or I don't like it. That's perfectly fine. That's good. That's fair. But for you to already attack it without even seeing it, that tells me that you're so desperate for attention that you have to interject yourself into a situation in which you're not a part of so that people can talk about you because you basically have been forgotten. And the fact that no one's paying attention to you, that you have to attack a show or attack the cast members whom you don't even know, tells me all about the character of the individual who is doing that. So anyway, I just want to pass that on because apparently that's occurring and they should be ashamed of themselves. Okay, the Dyatlov Pass incident. Here it is. In January of 1959, for those of you who don't know, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov led a group of 8 young Soviet hikers comprising of 7 men and 2 women, mostly university students, into the Ural Mountains, attempting to reach the Mount Orton, and that's a mountain of the dead, or they say something of this, from the small settlement in Russia. It took more than 3 months to locate all 9 of their bodies. So for those of you who don't know, they were actually found, and this is a true story. That's what makes it even more unique. They were actually found 6 miles away from their destination in a forest, almost a mile away from their campsite, without their skis, their shoes, their coats, and approximately minus 30-degree Fahrenheit weather. And 2 of them had actually fractured skulls. 2 more had major chest fractures, and one hiker was missing her tongue and eyes. Soviet investigators listed the cause of death as, quote, a compelling natural force, and abruptly closed the case. Not even a month later, just immediately, that's it. So that's basically here's what we know. For those of you who don't know about this particular case, I'm telling you, it is one of the most insane cases I've ever read. 6 of these skiers died of hypothermia, and 3 died of injuries. They died separately, and 2 of them were found under a cedar tree near the remains of a fire, while 3 others were found in intervals of hundreds of feet from the tree, and 4 more in a ravine. It's another 250 feet away. The 2 under the tree had burnt hands, and the 4 in the ravine weren't found until May the 4th, 3 months after the incident. The dead, by the way, seem to have donated some of their clothing items to the living. What I mean by that is Ludmila Domina's foot was wrapped in a piece of Yuri's pants, while Seaman was Semyon was found wearing Dubina's hat and coat. Some garments had cuts in them, as though they were forcibly removed. Consistently, there were 8 or 9 sets of footprints in the snow, accounting for only for the skiers and not suggesting any other party's involvement. There were no signs of struggle or any other human or animal approaching the campsite. And there was a snowstorm the night on February 2nd, which is when it was determined via their diaries that they had actually passed away. So this is one of those cases that, let me just break it down and tell you what happened in a nutshell. On the first night of February 1959, 9 skiers died mysteriously in the mountains of what is now Russia. The night of the incident, the group had set up camp on a slope, very small. It wasn't a steep slope at all. They enjoyed dinner. They prepared for sleep, but something went catastrophically wrong because the group never returned. On February the 26th, searchers found the hikers' abandoned tent, which had been ripped open from the inside. Now, I want you to understand that. Please understand that these people were skilled hikers. These were not people who had no idea what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were very, very skilled. So the fact that something happened to these individuals, no one knows. No one knows what happened, but we do know that the tent was actually cut open from the inside. Now, you don't cut a tent from the inside at minus 30 degrees unless something is happening. So, by the way, surrounding the area were footprints left by the group, some wearing socks, some wearing a single shoe, some barefoot, all which continued to the edge of a nearby wood. That's where the first 2 bodies were found, shoeless and wearing only underwear. The scene bore marks of death by hypothermia, but as the medical examiners inventoried the bodies, as well as other 7 that were discovered over the months that had followed, hypothermia no longer made sense. In fact, evidence made no sense at all. One body had evidence of a blunt force trauma consistent with a brutal assault. Another had a 3rd-degree burns. One had been vomiting blood. One was missing a tongue, and some of their clothing was found to be radioactive. Now, there's a lot of theories as far as what caused this Dyatlov Pass incident. Theories floated, including KGB interference, drug overdose, UFO, gravity anomalies, the Russian version of the Yeti. Now, recently, there was a documentary done that presented a theory involving a terrifying but real phenomenon called infrasound, in which the wind interacts with the topography to create a barely audible hum that can nevertheless induce powerful feelings of nausea, panic, dread, chills, nervousness, raised heartbeat rate, breathing difficulties. The only consensus remains that whatever happened involved an overwhelming and possibly inhuman force. I'm telling you, something was very odd about this particular about this case. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know about this, but the campsite was made on the slopes of Kolat on Dead Mountain at about 3,600 feet. All of the travelers, by the way, 8 of them in their early mid-20s, and there was one in the late 30s. They were experienced mountaineers. So let me make this very clear. These people were not. They were not amateurs. They knew what they were doing. So they were experienced mountaineers. They hiked across frozen lakes and totally uninhabited areas to get there. Despite nasty weather, slower progress than they'd actually planned, their last diary entries reflected high spirits. And charmingly, in a very typical Soviet way of bonding, they even produced a little newspaper about the trip, which they titled The Evening Ortotten, which bore the headline, "From now on, we know that the snowmen exist." And it goes on to say they can be met in the northern Urals next to the Ortotten Mountain. Now, again, some people say, well, did they see this thing? So after the first 5 bodies were found, a legal inquest began and eventually determining that the cause of death was hypothermia. Now, the death seemed kind of straightforward at first. Sure, these dead, were in various stages of undress, including one in his underwear, but this was explained away as a paradoxical undressing, which happens in about 25% of hypothermia victims. But again, these people were not inexperienced. So that doesn't make sense to me. But then it got really, really strange. Listen to this. The skiers' badly damaged tent, it was determined, as I said, it had been cut open from the inside. Again, you don't cut in the tent. That's keeping you alive in minus 30-degree weather. You don't cut it open unless something is happening outside the tent that you need to look out and see what in the world's going on. And all of their stuff was still in it. Nothing was stolen. So why were they dead of exposure if they hadn't access to their winter gear before going out into the freezing winds? They had the gear. To all appearances, they appear to have left the tent out of their own volition and in a hurry. Now, one of them fled the camp with his camera, but not his gear. As well as Rustam, who, along with Dyatlov and Zina, seemed to have died in a pose indicating he was trying to return to the tent. It had a small crack in his skull. But it was ruled that the elements were what killed him, not the fracture. No external wounds were discovered. Now, things got really shaken up when 4 bodies in the ravine were found and examined. So both Dubina and Zolotarev had fractured ribs, while Nikolai had a major skull fracture. And one of the investigators compared the force required to an injury that was so severe that of a car crash. Thank you very much. I appreciate the universe or the galaxy. Thank you. The injuries were absolutely not caused by force exerted by another human being. So let's make that clear. There's arguments, well, they must have had a fight or something. Nope, absolutely not. The force that caused this fracture was extreme. And once again, no soft tissue damage was observed. So if you're going to be hit in the head with an object, then you're going to leave a bruise. There's no bruising. As though the skiers' bodies were crushed by pressure. When Dubina was found to be missing her tongue, the theory of another party's possible involvement must have again arisen again. Who would do this? Why? Or did another skier from a group cut it out? And where did it go? That doesn't make sense. But there were absolutely no indications, none, of other people having been nearby, apart from the other travelers in Dyatlov's group. So not even the native Mansi people. There's some people say that the Mansi people, I disagree that they didn't. They did this because they're known to be in that area, but there were no footprints. There's nothing. And perhaps most baffling of all, some of the skiers' clothing was found to contain significant levels of radiation. Now, some people say yes because there was certain individuals that worked in a factory that had radioactive activity. I can understand that part. So due to an absence of guilty party, the inquest was closed in May of 1959, only just a short few weeks after the last 4 bodies were discovered. The files were archived, classified, put away. And when they finally became accessible in the 1990s, post-Soviet era, parts of them were missing. Come on. And without any real public answers to any of these freaky questions, all manner of insane theory flourished around the incident over the ensuing 50 years. But the Soviet government's very sudden closing of the case seems to have made it the most popular culprit in the minds of the theorists. There have been claims of orange spheres were sighted in the sky on the night the Dyatlov group died by campers about 50 miles away from the scene. So there were campers in that area about 50 miles away from that saw these orange spheres. Some explain these away as RS intercontinental missiles. And seeing as the last campsite was located on the pathway a little further away on the Soviet nuclear testing ground. Now, per the radiation found in the skiers' clothing, some speculated that they drank melted, contaminated snow. And a 12-year-old eyewitness who attended 5 of the skiers' funeral claimed that the bodies had a deep brown tan. Now, again, you can't talk conspiracies and radiation without mentioning aliens and UFOs, of course. Some folks even blamed the snowmen referenced in the students' newspaper. And they actually believe that it was a Yeti. What's interesting about this case is, to this day, a scientific explanation for the deaths of these 9 people has yet to be nailed down with 100% certainty. There's been other publications. They were inspired by the incident. Movies have been made about this. The mountain pass where the skiers set up their last campsite was named for Dyatlov and the Dyatlov Foundation established by Yuri. So Dyatlov is Dyatlov, in case of those of you who actually want to know a little bit more about this. Something very, very strange happened on that night. Again, these are skiers who are not, they were not inexperienced. And when you get deep into this, there's all kinds of conspiracies as far as what happened, how did it happen, why did it happen, why isn't there some type of explanation? And there's not. There absolutely is not. These were 10 highly experienced hikers. By the way, with one exception, all students and recent graduates from the Ural Institute. And Semyon was a very last-minute addition. He was 37 years old. And one people, this is from the History Channel, in the early stages of the trek, one member of the group actually dropped out because he fell ill. And so, but the rest carried on. And they took photos of each other larking about, and recorded diary entries, expressed their excitement about the adventures to come. I mean, it just, one thing says, I wonder what waits us in this trip. What will we encounter, it says in the diary. And weeks later, a search party sent to locate the missing hikers found the remains. And again, footprints made it clear that the group had left the tent without any shoes. No shoes, some with no clothes. And these are young people, but again, these are experienced people. Now, let's talk about the theories. There's a lot of theories. Yeah, they were out there because they were trying to get the experience for like a patch, a survivor's patch that they were doing for school. And well, thank you very much. Oh, that's beautiful. I've never seen that before. Thank you. So there was they were trying to get that credit for their college. So there's a theory called the Mansi theory. Early on, it was theorized by Soviet authorities that the Dyatlov party may have been killed by the Mansi. It's an indigenous people of the region. The idea that the hikers were slaughtered for straying onto sacred land, or perhaps as a part of a shamanic ritual, persisted for some time. I don't. But much of it was there's a lot was made about the presence of the Mansi or indwelling, and that these were violent, and it's been debunked. This has been absolutely, completely debunked as baseless theory rooted in a misunderstanding of the Mansi culture and rituals. And they were investigated, and they were absolutely cleared of any type of issues. So I don't agree with that. There's another theory about what happened called the espionage theory. And because two members of the Dyatlov group have been the focus of a really particular speculation. One was Semyon. He was a 37-year-old veteran of World War II. He was attached to this group of young students and graduates. Why? And furthermore, it's significant that a few years earlier, Yuri helped clear up a radioactive leak at a secret Soviet nuclear facility. It's an incident which had been since compared to the Chernobyl disaster. So according to the theory, these two people and perhaps maybe a third hiker were working for the KGB and had joined the Dyatlov trek to rendezvous with CIA agents in the Ural Mountains while handing over radioactive materials and fake nuclear secrets. The Russians were supported supposed to take photos of the American agents and all this other stuff. The theory goes that the CIA men got wise to what was going on. Again, it's absurd. Makes no sense. I don't agree with that. There's another theory about the UFO military weapons theory. So in 1990, Lev, the man who led the initial investigation to the incident, published a sensational article claiming that he had been ordered to censor some of his key findings. In particular, the unusual char marks on trees near where the bodies were found, which in this view, he says, and he was the lead investigator in this, confirmed a source of heat ray that had been purposely aimed at some of the helpless hikers. Now, his article actually alleged that floating balls of light and other weird phenomena had been reported over the Ural Mountains in February. And he doesn't mince his words, but he says that based on the evidence gathered, the roles of UFOs in this tragedy was quite obvious. That's what he says. And he was a lead investigator. Again, that's theory. There's another theory about the Yeti theory. And this is really interesting. This is where it gets real paranormal. The idea that the group was killed by a Yeti rests on a few pieces of dubious evidence. The first, there's an actual photo. So the first is a photo taken by one of the doomed hikers. And you can actually look this up. It is kind of creepy. It shows a dark humanoid figure seemingly skulking by a tree. This was a fearsome figure from the animals of cryptozoology, or simply a blurred image, or another hiker. Well, the problem with that, people say, well, no, it's just a human being. It was just a blurred picture. Well, they actually already did some investigation, and they found this figure to be 8 feet tall because they were able to find it. And then they measured, where they thought this tree was, and it was 8 feet tall. That's a problem. So that's something you can't just dismiss away. And the second item cited by pro-Yeti theorists is it's a parody newspaper the hikers wrote during the expedition, again, and it says in the diary, the Yeti lives in the northern Urals near Mount Ortotin. That's what they said. It's in the diary. Now, some people say, well, this was clearly intended to be a joke. Other stories in the parody newspaper were exaggerated accounts of things, and the hikers really did. So, and by the way, there is an actual investigator that was in the military, and he actually showed up, and he was one of the first people on the scene. Here's what he said. He's passed away since, but he was on his deathbed. So he said, you know what? I'm just going to tell what I saw. He says that when he was there, he saw massive feet that looked like human feet. It was 14 inches long, very, very wide, and it was around the tent. The rest of the military showed up, and they immediately sweep the dust, or not the dust, but the snow, because it was in the middle of the winter. And they immediately kind of knocked it over and told them not to talk about it ever again. Okay, I don't know. Now, so here's what a lot of people think that happened. I still disagree with this one. They think it is a slab avalanche theory. Here's what this means. The most widely accepted theory is also the most mundane. The group fled the tent because of a slab avalanche, then succumbed to the harsh conditions. A slab avalanche is where a compacted block of snow slides down a slope when the underlying weaker snow gives away. So according to the theory, what happened is a combination of factors, including mountain winds and weakening of the mountain snow during the pitching of the tent led to the catastrophic event. The thinking goes that once the avalanche hit, the group slashed their way out of the tent in a panic, with some of them severely injured by the impact. The ones who escaped the mild cuts and abrasions helped the others flee, what they assumed was the danger zone for a full-scale avalanche. Now, alternatively, all 9 hikers may have escaped the crushed tent without serious injuries, which would explain why there were no tracks in the snow, suggesting that people had been assisted or dragged. Thereafter, here's the problem with this. I think I'm a bit skeptical on this, because what happens is, so you have a slab here, like a slab, and they cut out like a little wall and place their tent there. Not a deep cut. The slope of this wall was simply too minimal for an avalanche. You have to have at least 30 degrees in order for an avalanche to actually go down and for the snow to go down. This was, I think, 10 to 15 degrees. That's it. That's not enough for an avalanche to occur, and certainly not to destroy a tent. And furthermore, here's what's even more crazy. The theory that they cut the tent to escape doesn't make sense, because it's an 8-inch cut. From here, clearly someone was looking outside of it. That it wasn't completely slashed to where you try to escape. Why would you do that anyway when all you got to do is just go out of the front of the tent? That makes no sense. You're trying to escape, so you take the knife, you slash it to escape out of a hole. That makes no sense, when you can just simply go out the front. So that is very, very strange. We don't know. Ultimately, we don't know what caused it, but we do know it did happen. And even to this day, there are people who debate about this. It's kind of crazy, and I think it's creepy. The tongue was missing, and the eyes were missing. And you're right. Now, some people say, well, it could be an animal. It could be, but the extreme blunt force would not have happened. Well, the avalanche was not. I can understand if the avalanche was on a 40-degree angle or like a 50, because obviously the steeper the slope, the more power that obviously with the snow compacting, hitting it. Okay, I can understand that. But number one, if you look at the slope, it simply is not steep. It's not steep enough to have an extreme blunt force trauma, because if one person experienced, which they did, not everyone did. So they were all in the tent. I don't know what it was that they were looking at. I don't know what they were cutting, cutting the tent and where that tent is cut. If you hear an avalanche behind you, then you don't cut the tent in front of you. You cut where you hear the noise. See, what is that noise? The tent was cut towards the woods, not towards the hill. So again, that doesn't make sense. There is so much going on here in this case that the more you actually, that's the Dyatlov Pass. The more layers you peel it back, you're like, man, this is weird. This is strange. These are experienced hikers. They are not amateurs. They are people who have been out in the woods, who have hiked thousands of times. Something very, very paranormal and supernatural happened on that night. And I don't believe it. I do not believe it was an avalanche. I just simply don't believe it. It doesn't make sense. If it was an avalanche, the entire tent would have been completely covered up, and that wasn't the case. It wasn't. Now the case is destroyed. The tent is destroyed. I mean, but it was not completely covered up. So I don't know. Yeah, there are too many questions with this particular case. And like I said, the more you look into it, the more you think something is not right here. And I don't know if it was that they died because of there is arguments that there was a military base that wasn't far behind or far away from it. So there is so there's a theory of that. I don't think so. There's a theory that they had launched missiles and the missiles kind of messed up and hit in the area in the woods. That could possibly happen, especially with the trauma, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Yeah, he did. Josh Gates, he did go there, and it's crazy, isn't it? It is crazy. But do yourself a favor, look into it, and the more you look into it, the more you think something isn't right here. Something is not right, and I agree, something is not right. So here we're going to talk a couple other cases that doesn't make sense too. But the Dyatlov Pass is one of those things you got to check out. Do your own investigation. Really weird. Okay, listen to this. And this I found this on a great article, Reader's Digest. And I want to pass. This is by Jacopo Curcia, I believe. He wrote it. In December 2016, a CIA officer checked into the American Embassy's health office in Havana, suffering from nausea, headache, and dizziness. Days later, 2 more CIA officers reported a similar ailment. And by the late 2018, the number grew to 26 Americans and 13 Canadians experiencing nausea, hearing loss, vertigo, nosebleeds, and focusing issues. In all the cases, victims claimed that the symptoms were triggered by a strange noise they had heard at their home or hotel rooms. One person said the noise was a high-pitched, and another described a beam of sound pointed into their rooms. Some insisted that the noise more closely resembled marbles rolling along the floor. The illnesses confounded medical experts, and doctors at the University of Pennsylvania who examined some of the victims diagnosed concussion-like symptoms, but found no signs that they'd suffered concussions. Now, we know what you must be thinking. The article says the Cuban government is up to something, right? The Cubans, they vehemently denied that they were responsible. And they said, nope, we're not doing it. And many Americans investigators believe them. That's because they still don't know who or what made the victim sick. Was it a new type of weapon? Now, the CIA claims it doesn't know of any weaponry that could cause these symptoms. What about ultrasound? One theory holds that a pair of covert eavesdropping devices placed too close to each other by Cuban agents may have inadvertently produced such a reaction, like the kind of feedback you hear when someone stands too close to a microphone. But the FBI found no evidence to substantiate that argument. In fact, ultrasound is above the range of human hearing. So recordings of the sounds from some of the victims only added to the confusion. 2 scientists who study the recordings believe they captured the sound of a lovelorn male cricket. And one of the scientists, Alexander Stubbs of the University of California, Berkeley, says the insects are incredibly loud, says you can hear them from inside a diesel truck going 40 miles an hour on the highway. Still, the scientists had no idea why the sounds might lead to illnesses in humans. Maybe it was just nerves. Cuba is a high-threat, high-stress post, a former embassy official told ProPublica.org. Diplomats are warned that there will be high surveillance. They will be listening devices in your house, probably in your car. And for some people, that puts them in a high-stress mentality, in a threat anticipation mode. True, but then how to explain what happened in China? In 2018, an American post in the consulate in Guangzhou was diagnosed with the very same mystery illness. Ultimately, 15 Americans were evacuated. Now, while the seemingly airborne cause of these brain injuries are still a mystery, the fallout's clear. The Americans removed 60% of their diplomats from Cuba and expelled 15 Cuban diplomats from Washington, D.C. So the mysterious sounds may be, the opening shots of a new kind of Cold War. Isn't that crazy? Folks, but this, it occurs. This has happened. I think it's obviously, in my opinion, I really do believe that this was a military weapon that was used to determine if, I don't believe it was just interference or I think there's something going on there. This is another one for those of you who have never heard of this. Northwest Airlines Flight 305. This is a really weird situation. Listen to this unsolved mystery. November 24th, 1971. Take a look at that. Dan Cooper was a passenger on Northwest Airlines Flight 305. So you can Google that later. November 24th, 1971, from Portland to Seattle. It's only a 30-minute flight. He was described by passengers and flight attendants as a man in his mid-40s wearing a dark suit, black tie, with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, a neatly pressed white-collared shirt. So he took a seat, he lit a cigarette, and he politely ordered a bourbon and soda, for which he paid cash. And shortly after takeoff, he handed a note to a 23-year-old flight attendant who ignored it, assuming it was just the man's phone number. The note said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note." Dan Cooper actually told her, quote, "I have a bomb." So the note's exact wording is a part of the mystery, since Cooper reclaimed it after the flight attendant read it. But his demands were for $200,000 in negotiable American currency, worth $1 million today. 4 parachutes, a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane on arrival. The flight attendant brought the demands to the captain, and the airline president authorized full cooperation. So the other passengers had no idea what was happening, having been told that the landing was delayed due to the mechanical difficulties. Well, listen to this. At 5:39 p.m. Eastern, but in that time, the plane landed. An airline employee delivered a cash-filled knapsack and parachutes, and Cooper allowed all passengers and 2 flight attendants to leave the plane. During refueling, Cooper outlined his plan to the crew: a southeasterly course toward Mexico with 1 further refueling stop in Nevada. 2 hours later, the plane took off. When it landed in Reno, Cooper's absence was noted. Cooper, whom the media mistakenly referred to as D.B. Cooper, was never seen or heard from again. Now, some of you are thinking, well, he went out the plane. No parachute was found. The ransom money was never used. In 1980, a young boy on vacation with his family in Oregon found several packets of the ransom money, identifiable, by the way, by the serial numbers, leading to an intense search of the area for Cooper or his remains. Nothing was ever found. And for a time, it was speculated that Mad Men's fictional Dan Draper was the man who would become Cooper. In the real world, a parachute strap was found in 2017 at one of Cooper's possible landing sites. But still, no Cooper. That is cray-cray. I tell you what, the more you learn about these unsolved cases, the more you're thinking, okay, what in the heck, what happened there? What happened? It's true. It is really crazy. It is really crazy. Flight 401, the haunted airplane. I will do that. I will check that out. Let's look that up right now. Flight 401, the haunted. I think I've seen this. I think I've heard about that. It was at Eastern, wasn't it? I think it was on Eastern. Let's for those of you who don't know, yeah, it was Eastern. A flight engineer on an Eastern Airlines, this is from Florida Today, a flight engineer on an Eastern Airlines flight from Atlanta to Miami was surprised to find a uniformed crew member already sitting at his seat. The stranger said, "You don't need to worry about the pre-flight." The man simply vanished. The engineer had recognized the stranger. It was Don Repo. Repo was dead. The 52-year-old flight engineer was one of 101 people who died December 29th, 1972, when Eastern Flight 401, packed with holiday travelers, slammed into the Everglades 19 miles northwest of Miami International Airport. Another 75 survived. At the time, it was the nation's deadliest single-plane accident. investigators later determined that while the crew was distracted with a front landing gear, the Lockheed L-1011-1 TriStar quietly coasted to its destruction. In the year that followed, stories swirled that flight crews, attendants, and passengers swore to several sightings of Repo and briefly Captain Bob Loft on Eastern Plains. I've heard of this. It was theorized they appeared to warn of impending problems in an effort to assuage their guilt over the late fatal mistake. Well, that's kind of creepy. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Wow. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of people claim that they've seen this ghost on the plane. Man, that is just insane. Of course, we have to talk about doing well. We have to talk about Area 51. I think we have to do this. Area 51, we all know, is one of those places that I have my own theory. But Area 51, the southern Nevada, is a U.S. military base, the very existence of which was unconfirmed until 2013, when the CIA was obliged to respond to a Freedom of Information Act request from 2005. Based on historical evidence, it would appear that Area 51 supports the development and testing of experimental aircraft and weapons. And public satellite images, such as those available on Google Maps, don't provide insight. Even those with security clearance to Area 51 are transported there from Las Vegas via an airline called Janet, whose planes are unmarked and which shrouds its windows upon descent. So the intense secrecy around Area 51 has sparked rumors that the government uses it to house crashed UFOs, conduct lab tests on aliens, and other theories about what Area 51 is used for include research on time travel, research on teleportation, meetings with extraterrestrials, development of means for weather control, which we already do, by the way, and activities related to a shadowy one world government. Now, we know Area 51 exists. Well, I personally think that, obviously I don't know about aliens, but I do believe, obviously, they're testing experimental aircraft. Yes, people don't know that we actually do have a weather modification system. You do understand this, don't you? You don't know that? Someone's saying on Messenger, we already have the weather. Okay, here's what I want you to look up. For those of you who don't know this is crazy. And this is not conspiracy theory. We know this for a fact because the government has released these documents. For those of you who don't know, it's called Operation Sober Popeye or Project Popeye. It's Project Controlled Weather Popeye. It was a military cloud seeding project that was actually carried out by the U.S. Air Force during the Vietnam War in 1967 to 1972. We've already done this. Most cloud seeding operations, including those run here, they use a compound called silver, it's iodide, to aid in the foundation of ice crystals. And silver iodide exists naturally in the environment at low concentrations and is not known to be harmful to humans or wildlife, allegedly. So that's what they did, basically. The whole purpose, and check it out, it is crazy. It's actually, you can go to the State Department, a .gov website, history.state.gov. So this is not conspiracy theory, folks. This really did exist. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. This really did exist. I'm telling you. Okay, Washington, the New York Times. For those of you who don't know this, there's a Seymour Hersh. He wrote this article. The United States has been secretly seeding clouds over North Vietnam, Laos, and South Vietnam to increase and control the rainfall for military purposes. This was in July This was written in July 2nd, 1972, when this was uncovered. Government sources, both civilian and military, said during an extensive series of interviews that the Air Force used cloud seeding program that had been aimed at most recently and at hindering movement of North Vietnam, the Vietnamese troops and equipment, and suppressing enemy anti-aircraft missile fire. So the disclosure actually confirmed growing speculation in congressional and scientific circles about the use of weather modification in Southeast Asia. Despite years of experiments with rainmaking in the United States and elsewhere, scientists are not sure they understand its long-term effects. Well, yeah. So this actually happened, and this was testified. So beginning in 1967, some State Department officials protested the United States by deliberately altering the natural rainfall in parts of Indochina, was taking environmental really risk of unknown proportions. And so that's the whole point. What they would do is they would try to destroy and have torrential rainfall in paths where the Vietnamese were traveling. So it would cause major issues, supply issues. They did this. That is insanity. And that is a true story. That's what makes it, when you're manipulating the weather, and we did this in the Vietnam War, Operation Popeye. Look it up, guys. It really is a legitimate thing. That's kind of frightening. That was 1972. Think about how many, my goodness, 50 years. 50 years have passed away. Think about what we're able to do now. I don't know. That when you think about that, that really does that makes me uncomfortable. And what's interesting about reincarnation. Here's another article that I want to talk about. That's a case that I can't necessarily explain away. Today, 24% of Americans believe in reincarnation, although scientists tend to kind of dismiss it. Every once in a while, and it's an unsolved mystery comes around that is so compelling and otherwise unexplainable that it gives even scientists pause. Well, that's where they have this story of the Pollock sisters. The Pollock sisters. In 1957, two young English sisters, Joanna Pollock and Jacqueline Pollock, they were 11 and 6. They died in a tragic car accident. And 1 year later, their mother gave birth to twins, Jillian and Jennifer. When the twins were born, and they were old enough to talk, they began identifying and requesting toys that had belonged to their dead sisters, pointing out landmarks only the dead sisters would have known, such as the school that they have attended, sometimes panicking upon seeing cars idling. The cars coming to get us, they would shout. And after the twins turned 5, these incidents became less frequent and the girls went on to lead normal lives. But still, the story of the Pollock sisters made its way to Dr. Ian Stevenson. He was a psychologist who studied reincarnation. After studying thousands of supposed cases, Dr. Stevenson wrote a book telling of 14 that he actually believed to have been real, 14 cases of reincarnation, including that of the Pollock sisters. So you can look that up, Pollock sisters. Check that out. I'm confused about reincarnation because it just, I don't know. It's weird. But there's also another case that's similar to the Pollocks. George and Jenny Sauter. If you've never heard of this case, it's an unsolved mystery. It's very strange. George and Jenny Sauter of West Virginia were forced to cope not only with the immeasurable loss of their children, but also with the mysterious circumstances surrounding that loss. You see, after the Sauter home burned to the ground on the night before Christmas in 1945, 5 of the 10 Sauter children were still alive and accounted for. But what about the other 5? From all accounts, it would seem that they vanished into thin air. Now, notice how we don't say vanished into smoke. That's because in the ruins of the fire, 0 physical evidence of the children could be found, which is virtually impossible from a scientific standpoint. But that wasn't all that smelled off about the events that night. Apparently, George tried to save the children who he believed were still trapped inside by using his coal truck, which strangely was inoperable. The phone lines to the house were found to have been cut. A woman claimed to have seen all 5 missing children peering from a passing car while the fire was in progress. And a woman at Charleston Hotel who saw the children's photos in a newspaper said she had seen 4 of the 5 a week after the fire. Says the children were accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all of the Italian extraction. She said in a statement, I tried to talk to the children in a friendly manner, but the men appeared hostile and wouldn't allow it. So the Sauter family theorized that the children had been kidnapped, perhaps in an attempt to extort money, perhaps to coerce George into joining the local mafia. The Sauters were Italian immigrants, or perhaps in retaliation for George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini and Italy's fascist government. From the 1950s until Jenny Sauter's death in the 1980s, the Sauter family maintained a billboard on State Route 16 with pictures of the 5 vanished children and offering a reward for information. The last known surviving Sauter child, Sylvia, 69, still doesn't believe her siblings perished in the fire. Yeah, they had 10 kids. They had 10 kids, and 5 survived and 5 vanished. Completely vanished. And so 5 of the children survived, and 5 of them were just gone. It's like, see you later. Isn't that crazy? That something is just weird about that. I don't know. But here's the problem. People say, well, it was the mafia who tried to extort money from the man and all this. The problem is there was never, ever a note sent. There was never demands for money for the return of the children. There was nothing. They just simply vanished. I'm telling you, when you think about that, that's crazy. We'll do a couple more. The disappearance of Paula Jean Weldon. This is crazy. Look this up. Paula Jean Weldon, Welden. Paula Jean Weldon, she was 18. She was a sophomore at Bennington College in December 1st, 1946, the day she told her roommate, Elizabeth Parker, she was going for a long walk, but she failed to return. A search focused primarily on Vermont's Long Trail. It's a 270-mile trail that cut through Vermont to the Canadian border, where local witnesses report having seen her. Well, the trail yielded no clues, however, and soon what the Bennington Banner refers to as tantalizing, unquestionably strange leads began to materialize. These include claims by a Massachusetts waitress that she served an agitated young woman matching Paula's description. And upon learning of this particular lead, Paula's father disappeared for 36 hours, supposedly in pursuit of the lead. But it was nevertheless a strange move that led to his becoming a prime suspect in Paula's disappearance. Soon theories began circulating that Paula's home life was not as nearly as idyllic as her parents told the police. Apparently, Paula had not returned home for Thanksgiving the prior week, and she may have been distraught about a disagreement with her father. For his part, Paula's father, posited a theory that Paul was distraught about a boy she liked and that perhaps the boy should have been a suspect. Well, over the next decade, a local Bennington man twice bragged to friends that he knew where Paula's body was, where she was buried. He was unable to lead the police to anybody, however, let alone Paula's, and with no evidence of a crime, no body, no forensic clues, the case grew colder. Theories grew stranger, including those linked to the paranormal. New England author and occult researcher Joseph Citro came up with the Bennington Triangle. This theory, which explained the disappearance, is linked to a special energy that attracts other space visitors who would have taken Paula with them back to the world. I don't think it was. I don't think it was aliens. When I look at it and I study it, to me, it makes sense. The logical conclusion is, unfortunately, she was murdered. And I think that's what makes more sense to me. but maybe not. Maybe you have a little theory on it. And finally, the big gray man. The folks, this is what again, this is what we're talking about, unsolved mysteries. The big gray man is an inhuman creature that is said to haunt the summit and passes of the second highest peak in Scotland, Ben Macdui. Now, like the Yeti of the Himalayas, the Bigfoot of the American Pacific Northwest, the big gray man has been seen by few witnesses. What makes the big gray man particularly frightening is that his typical, his physical characteristics don't resemble that of a bear. And thus, sightings can't be dismissed. It's just a bear sightings. You see, those who have seen this big gray man describe it as extremely tall, over 10 feet, human-like, short hair, broad shoulders, long arms. Nearly all reports of sightings include the sound of gravel crunching beneath footfalls. And scientists haven't been able to come up with an explanation for the sightings and the accompanying sounds, although psychologists have proposed that those who have supposedly seen and heard the big gray man have been in a state of physical and mental anguish. I don't know. Here's the deal. There's something going on. I believe personally, there's too many people, and I've talked about this before, there's too many people who are credible, who have seen this, who have seen these bipedal creatures. And for me, I think there's something going on there. I think there's something very, very strange. And so some people you can dismiss it if you want to, and that's fine. But I think there's something very, very odd when there's too many people across all ways of life, all cultures too. That's what's even more interesting. So many different cultures, religions are seeing these things. And so I think we can't dismiss it. I want to do this one last one, and then I'll get to your questions about the paranormal, because I answer questions all the time. You all know the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. When you dig deep into this, it's very strange. For those of you who don't know the story, in 1587, John White led a group of people from Britain to found an English colony, settling on Roanoke Island. It's a chain barrier islands now known as the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So that gives you an idea where this is. Really strange. However, White had to leave. He had to go back to Britain for more supplies because they were running out of supplies. On his return 3 years later, found the colony meticulously, completely abandoned. All houses and fortifications were dismantled with care. So it wasn't torn down, it wasn't destroyed, it wasn't burned. Before he left the colony, White had instructed the colonists that if they were taken by force, they were to carve a cross into a nearby tree. No cross was ever carved into a tree. The only clue was the word Croton, the name of a native tribe allied with the English, which was carved in a post. While White took this to mean that the colonists had moved to Croatian Island, known as Hatteras, maybe. Ensuing investigations turned up claims that the colonists had been slaughtered by the Powhatan tribe, but there's no archaeological evidence of this, none at all. And the recent examination of the primary sources indicates that any massacre that occurred was not of this particular group or colonists, but rather a group of colonists who had maybe arrived earlier. More enduring theories involved integration between the colonists and the Native Americans and other local tribes. But so far, there's really no DNA evidence has positively identified any descendants of the colony. They just disappeared. I think when that's just crazy. What happened to them? Where'd they go? I don't know. If you could tell, if you know where they went, then you can tell me a little bit more, because apparently I can't. There is no more. There are so many unexplained cases, guys. I have so many unexplained cases. It will blow your mind. because there are some things that when you read them, you're thinking, okay, something doesn't make sense here. And I got to tell you something. The more you read about these unexplained cases, then the more you want to know more. You want to know more. What in the heck is going on? What happened? It is strange. It definitely is strange. Something isn't right. But you have all these cases going on. I don't think you can just dismiss them and say, well, it's just people's imagination. No, there's something going on. Okay. So let me go ahead and turn on the comments there for our friends on TikTok so I can answer some of your paranormal questions and demonology questions and go from there. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. There it is. There's a whole lot of when you read into it and you get into it's crazy. All right. Well, hello, morning to you. Morning to you. I don't know where you are, but I appreciate you being here. So, how do we help others who have fear? Well, I just by understanding what their fear is coming from, and depending on fear of what. There's so many people have fears of lots of things, and you had to be specific as far as what that means. Okay. Well, how do you know it was? A lot of people tell me that they were attacked by demons, and my first question was, how do you know it was a demon? You know, that's the first question that I would have to ask. Yeah, you know, because obviously it's important. Um, well, Ash, that's a good question. There's a lot of great questions. A lot of people are asking me questions. I just finished blessing my home. Is there a right way to do it? I always tell people that one of the great prayers that you can do is called the Epiphany of the Doors. It's also called the blessing of the doors, the chalking of the doors. Um, those are fantastic. That's a fantastic prayer. You can Google that, and you can. It's all they're online everywhere. But I encourage you to check that out. And so there we go. I have a question, Bishop Long. What are some of your interests or hobbies outside of the paranormal and your ministry? Outside, well, really, there's not a whole lot. I don't have a lot of time to myself. I just simply don't. I've dedicated my entire life to this ministry. People have asked me many times over and over, am I married? No, I'm not. I have taken a vow of celibacy. I will die as a celibate man. I have my entire life is devoted to this ministry, and so I spend the majority of my time either doing ministry for hospital chaplaincy or answering emails, making phone calls, teaching English. I mean, there's so yeah. I wish I had more time. I just simply don't. You know, I was talking about on the United States Old Catholic Church's page. You know, I serve pretty much as everything: the presiding bishop, the abbot, the vocations director, the instructor. I mean, the whole cat and caboodle. So I put on the USOC piece. We're looking for a vocations director because I got to give some of that responsibility away because just one person cannot do it all. They just can't. So, well, thank you there, Jen. Yeah. So I like to walk. I certainly would love to camp, but I'm not a big fan of a camping tent camping. No. So we're not going to do that. Can God heal? Absolutely. All healing comes from God. So, but I like, if I'm ever going to go to like a vacation, I love to go to Gatlinburg. That's probably one of my all-time favorite places to visit. Oh, you have a camper? See, I would love to have a camper. I would have a gold aura. Great. Is that a good thing? I don't know much about auras. I don't know very little actually about auras. So I was told I have a gold aura. Okay. Yeah, I would like to go camping in a cabin. You know what I mean? That's important. That's really important. I don't. I'm not really big into camping in a tent. No. Can you talk about Jesus? Well, yeah, you can talk about Jesus if you want to talk about Jesus. Yeah, you know that's a thing. That's the thing. I would love to watch more movies. I don't think. I honestly I don't think there are very decent. I don't think there are very good movies out there. I think some of the movies are just stupid. I've seen it just. To be honest with you, I very rarely will I watch possession movies because most of them are just terrible. So I haven't dismissed. Okay, again, I did not dismiss any question. You have to understand, I have 3 computers running at the same time. I have lots of people asking me questions on this computer, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB, on Spreaker. I have people asking me questions on Clapper. I have people asking me questions on TikTok. Guys, give me a break, okay? Just relax with that. Just relax. I'm one person looking at 3 different computers. Okay? So let's relax with the criticism. I mean, I'm doing the best I can. I can't look at here and look like here at the same time. I'm talented, but I'm not that talented. Okay. Okay. If you're going to ask the question, then ask the question. Yeah, the YouTube, I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't know. My main YouTube. Yeah, thank you, Ricky. Yeah, go ahead and ask it, Ricky. My main YouTube is up and running. That's youtube.com Bishop James Long. But the Bishop James Long / official, that's not, apparently, I don't know, YouTube has decided that I violated some copyright, which is stupid because I run the show on both YouTube channels. That makes no sense. No sense. And so my main one that I use is YouTube, is just Bishop James Long, just the same word. Yeah, we just don't know. Yeah, the dealing with frequency portal. Yeah, no, I don't. Excuse me. No, I don't play musical instruments. I would love to. I would love to be able to play music instruments, but I'm naturally blind, and I just can't get past that. So, I did sing when I was in the seminary. So yeah, we studied chant. Well, thank you very much for the universe. I appreciate that. Discovering Bigfoot. I have not. I'm going to have to check that Bigfoot documentary out. Raymond, how do you know that you're truly saved? This is how you know. Do you accept Jesus Christ, your personal Lord and Savior? Yes. Do you think did he live? He died. He was resurrected, and gaining you for eternal? Yes. Then that's it. Don't make it more complicated than that. Just simply don't. Because a lot of times people think, well, we're a sinner. We're all sinners. Every one of us. We're all going to sin. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means you're a human being. And so that's absolutely something you need to always remember. What about the movie Exorcist? I haven't. Well, of course, I haven't seen the trailer for it. I don't think they've come out with the Exorcist, the remake, yet. So I don't know. But I've seen the Pope's Exorcist, and I'm not a big fan. So Ricky, what's your question? I've never seen your question. Remember, it's scrolling. So a question recorder. Yeah, I do. I did see the Pope's Exorcist, and no, I liked everything until the end. The end was just stupid. I was very irritated at the end. As a matter of fact, I purposely went to see the movie so I could do a movie review for you guys, and I did review several, I guess maybe a month ago. I don't know when, and the end was, yes, I agree, it was just stupid, and I thought, really, come on. Why would you do that? I thought the beginning and middle was really good. I was like, okay, I can kind of dig this a little bit, but then the ending is like, oh, that was like, I felt like just walking out. Just felt like walking out. I have cluster migraines, 4 or 5 of them a week, so yeah, I'll have them for the rest of my life. Yeah, HARP. That's right, HARP, government weather manipulation. Absolutely. Jesus does not hate kids. I don't understand that question. It's actually just completely opposite. I have tried Botox and it did nothing. because it's from concussions. It's not from nerve or anything. I have seen The Right. I do like The Right. I interviewed Father Gary Thomas, who the movie is after, and I really, really liked The Right very much. I have seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and there are a few parts that I thought no, that I just didn't like about, but for the most part, they tried to keep very, very close to the actual case that was testified. And I thought truthfully, of Annalise McKell was her name. I thought they just I thought they were in violation. I really do believe that they should have, somebody should have been arrested for that. She was 68 pounds when she died. She died of malnutrition, dehydration. So, I've never met Father Vince. No. Now, Ricky, I have been looking at this now for the whole time, and I'm still waiting for your question. Um, okay. Thank you very much there, studio. Yeah, I did that, Caleb. I explained the 144,000 in Revelation. We actually did that in Revelation. I encourage you. We're finished with Revelation now. I just looked. Oh, gosh, how many months was that? 5 or 6 months. When I 5 months when I actually went verse by verse. So here's what I encourage you to do. If you want to follow along, or if you want to go all the way back to my Facebook page to January the 8th, and go all the way back to January 8th. And every Sunday and Wednesday, I actually taught Revelation verse by verse. And I encourage you to do that. Yeah. If I have evil, if I have evil demonic dreams, does it mean I could be going to hell? No. Not no. Oh, just because you have evil demonic dreams doesn't mean you're going to hell. You could also be having extreme anxiety in your life too. So I always look at the logic first. So I just wonder if you're going, do you have PTSD? Do you have extreme anxiety that you're dealing with? Do you have, that's what I look at first. And then we rule out that first and we look at the other things second. So to me, uh, just because you have a dream about demons doesn't mean, it certainly does not mean you're going to be going to hell. No. Because Jesus was speaking. Remember, Jesus was human as well. See, we often forget about that Jesus was fully divine and fully human. Okay. Have you been discovering not Bigfoot? I have not. Yeah, I'm not going to discuss. We're not going to get into discussions about uh, uh, the Muslim faith. I'm not going to. We're not going there. I'm just not going to do this because I have friends that are Muslim. I have friends that are. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have friends that are Jewish. I have friends that are agnostic. I have friends that are pagans. I have friends that are ultra conservative. I have friends that are ultra liberal. And I'm just not going to get in the discussion about why this faith doesn't do this and that faith doesn't do that. To me, that's not my place. And I prefer, I just don't like doing that. Because we can go on and on and on and on. I could easily take every single faith out there and say, why don't they do this? And why don't they do that? Well, that's not my place. And I think all that does is it separates us, our the humanity. And I don't want to participate in that. I just don't. And I guess, yes, certainly it would, people say, well, you would have more people, you would have more. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to sit there and cause divisiveness and division for the sole purpose of getting more people to sit back and eat popcorn and Coke and watch the fight. I'm just not going to do that. I have no patience for it. And I'm rather intolerant when it comes to that. So I have not. No, I have not been on any. I have not performed an exorcism lately, primarily because my car is still needing to be fixed. But as soon as I can get my Jeep up and running, I've got cases that I need to get to. I got to get to. I'm really behind, so we'll see. But that's not much I can do about that. Hopefully, maybe this weekend we can get to it. Yeah, Ash, that's a good question. A lot of people are asking me about, can you be influenced by watching movies and things of the demonic movies and things of this nature? Well, it's interesting because you have to remember demonic entities will use anything. Do an exorcism on your car, yeah. Demonic entities will do anything to entice you or cause havoc in your life. They certainly, absolutely can utilize technology. We're seeing that now. I mean, we see this in film. We see this on. There's a lot of people are capturing weird activity on baby monitors. And it's interesting because you have a baby monitor. You think you can it's going to check on your daughter or check on your son. That's what it's for. But people are capturing evidence that's pretty enticing. It's very interesting. So, but they certainly can use any type of format to try to communicate or to attack. I just simply say, look, if you're under demonic attack, you're not going to sit and watch. I have never, in all the cases that I've worked, when a family has gone through true, legitimate demonic activity in their homes, they're not sitting watching demon shows or demon movies. They're just not, because they're living it. And they don't want to relive it by watching it over and over on television. So, well, it's not so much the fixing the car, the money. It is the a buddy of mine down the street. He knows a lot about mechanics, so he kind of tore the transmission apart to find out what the problem was. So he's working a lot of hours, and so I'm hoping maybe because this weekend is the long weekend, maybe he can come on over and put it back together and get it going. So, what is this insanity? I didn't know it was insanity. Spirit guides, are they the same as guardian angels? I look at, I believe we all have guardian angels, and some people don't, and that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and argue about it. Just not. Because no matter what I say, there are people I don't believe it. I don't believe. Okay, fine. All right. Well, I'm not going to cry about it because you don't believe it. Okay. You don't believe it. Move on. But I think potato. That's what I would think. Well, thank you very much, Gaily Liz. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, Lenny. Here's the deal. Are ghosts actually demons? And I know people always say this to me every single time. They say to me, and I've said this many times, they say all ghosts are demons. Well, I have a problem with that statement because people who make those statements are not investigators. They're making a statement based on an opinion. Based on opinion on what? On an opinion? Well, someone can say, I believe in Santa Claus. Well, the Easter Bunny is real. It doesn't make the Easter Bunny real just because you say it. I don't know where this is coming from. Not that you are, but I don't know where this is coming from. But people are always saying that all ghosts are demons. That is not true. I investigate the cases. I am there. I've been doing this 35 years ago was the first time I investigated a case. So people can say all day long, well, I don't think they are. And then my question to them is, how many cases then have you worked? Well, none, but I still don't think they are. So you haven't worked any case at all, and you're giving me an opinion based on what? Based on opinion? But you haven't done it. You haven't investigated. So how do you know? Here's the deal, and I've said this a million. I've said this before. People say, "Well, it's scriptural." No, actually, it's not. It's not scriptural that all ghosts are demons. Actually, it's just the opposite. If you read, again, Matthew chapter 14, verse 26, Jesus was walking on water, and it says, when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. It is a ghost, they cried out. People say, well, it means demon. No, it does not. Look at the translation. In the Septuagint, the Greek translation, it does not say demon. Demon and ghost are two completely different words. And again, in Luke chapter 24, verse 36 through 51, when Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was crucified, they were terrified, and because they thought they were seeing a ghost. And Jesus said, why are you so frightened? Why do you doubt? Look at my hands and feet. See that I am. Touch and find out for yourselves. Ghosts don't have flesh and bones as you see that I have. So how many times have I said this? It tells us that the disciples knew what the concept of ghosts were. And it also tells us that Jesus confirmed that ghosts exist. Because if ghosts did not exist, Jesus would have said, don't be stupid, ghosts don't exist. That's not what he said. So again, no matter what I say to people, I still don't believe it. Well, I don't care. Okay, go talk to your therapist about it. What do you want me to say about it? Okay, I'm not here to convince you of it. I'm just here to tell you. Plain and simple. If you don't believe it, then okay. You're not going to make me upset about it. I'm not going to go home and cry. I'll say, oh, well, thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you. I mean, seriously, it's just, yeah, okay, bye. Yeah, I'm not going to cry about it. Yeah, I'm not going to cry. I don't believe it. Oh, no. Well, since you don't believe it, my whole entire outlook is going to change because the world revolves around your narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. No. Sorry. But that's what it says in Scripture. And people say, well, it meant demons. So now you're you're an interpreter of Scripture. You can speak Greek now. You can speak Latin. You're Aramaic. So now okay, all right, Einstein. Can I pray that you get married? Well, I certainly do hope that you find the perfect person for you. Possession. I have not seen an increase in possession, but I have seen an increase in demonic infestation. And that is concerning. But I have not seen an increase in demonic possession. Now, could that lead to, certainly infestation could lead to possession, does. So, please keep in mind that only Shannon Long is allowed to pen. So please, because it locks up our chat. So please don't pen. Thank you very much. I know that you want to get my opinion. I can understand. I do, but it messes up the chat. So just ask your question. Whoever penned that, go ahead and ask that question again. That way I'll see it. So, what is demonic infestation? Okay, like for example, do you ever consider to revert back to Orthodox and get married? I'm Catholic. I mean, Orthodox is Catholic, but no, I'm not going to get married. I've taken a vow of celibacy. No, I'm very, very comfortable being a celibate man. God has called me to live as a celibate man. So, no, the celibacy for me, it's a calling. Either you're called to live a celibate life or you're not, and that's okay. Some people are not called to live a celibate life, and that's fine. I happen to be called to live a celibate life, so I've taken a vow of celibacy. It's not a vow that we allow our clergy to be married should they wish. I choose to accept the calling of celibacy. I'm getting older and I fear death more. I don't want to fear. What does Christ say about dying? Well, Christ says, I am the way, the life, the truth. And if you shall believe in me, you will have eternal life. So my friend, Vet Billy, you have nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. And I encourage all of you to go to the website. I've talked about this before, nderf.org. Okay, nderf.org. If any of you are struggling about the possibility of death, if any of you are worried about that, and I understand that because, the older you get, certainly I think about it, because I'm getting older. I'm in my 50s, for goodness sake. So you kind of you don't think about when you're in 20s. But I don't fear it. I have no fear of death, none whatsoever, none. But I encourage you to go to a website, nderf.org. These are, thank you very much. I appreciate you putting that in there. That actually is documents from Dr. Jeffrey Long, who I had on the show. He's a world-leading expert on near-death experiences. And these are people who are clinically dead and who have come back and told their story. And people dismiss it and say, I think it's someone dreaming. No. They actually left their body, and they're able to do things that are that you can't explain. So, thank you very much for the 148,000 likes so far. I appreciate it. Have I ever met any angel? Explorer 0618 is asking, have you ever met any angels? Here's what of course, demonic entities are fallen angels. But here's what I have found. the time in your life when you're at the lowest, when you're really depressed, whether you're depressed or lonely or sad, and then you just get a phone call from a friend, or sometimes, um, here's a perfect example. I was walking on the track, doing my little, walk. And when I'm walking, I like to be focused and, focus on on walking and exercise, unless I'm talking to my sister. And even if I'm talking to my sister, I'm still walking. I'm still getting that sweat in. But when I'm not talking and I listen to my headsets, my head is down and I'm just very, very focused on my 5 miles, minimal, every day. But there was a gentleman once, and he was an older gentleman, and he was sitting on a bench, and he looked like he was having a rough day. I passed him up, and something just told me, James, sit next to him and talk to him. Now I'll be honest with you. I was like, no, I'm trying to focus. I'll talk to him, maybe later after the 5 mile walk. Because I was really I just got my 2 miles in, and I was so OCD focused, laser focused, listen to the music, don't focus on the pain, and as I was coming around again, I got another message that talked to him. So okay. All right. Okay. All right, fine. Here I am listening to my Elvis, and I'm really in the move. I'm going. And I passed him. I said, okay. And I stopped. And I took my headsets off, and I said, are you okay? And he looked at me. He said, no. And I thought, okay, all right. Well, obviously this is the message. So I sat down next to him, and we just started talking. And he was telling me that his wife had cheated on him, and that it was a very rough time for him, and that he just didn't want to go on. He just didn't want to. He couldn't live without her. I mean, he was very distraught emotionally. He was emotional when he talked to me, and we talked a little bit. And so after about, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes or so, he kind of calmed down, and I gave him some suggestions. And he asked me, well, out of the blue, he said, are you a priest? And I didn't tell him anything about myself. I didn't tell him nothing about who I was. I said, well, yeah, I'm clergy. He said, I knew that. You were either a priest or you were my angel. Now that hit me really hard. I mean, that was like not a bad hit. That kind of like, wow. Because that really affected me. Because it 30, 40 minutes of my time, I was focused on my, on me walking. I was focused on my my weight loss, and and at that moment when I was focused on me, and there's nothing wrong with that. You got to be focused on your health. Someone was really struggling, and that's when God said, hey, I need you over here for a second. Just for a second. Just for a second, not for 5 hours. You can still walk afterwards. And I tell you, you know what? Honest to God, I learned after I spoke to him, and he gave me a hug afterwards. I'm not a big touchy feely guy, but he was the tears were coming down. And I talked to him. I've seen him before. Apparently, he talked, and they made up. And but when someone says to me, I thought you were my guardian angel. I really, it really affected me. That brief moment, that 30, 40 minutes that I gave that man, I realized that he probably went to the park, probably looking for somebody to talk to him. Somebody. And it was just 30, 40 minutes of my time. And during the time where I was focused on James, focused on exercising, focused on getting, that's when God says, hey, I need you over here. I need you for a second. So when you say, have I ever seen an angel? You need to remember that you can be someone's angel. And all it takes is just a small act of kindness. Small act of kindness. And while it may be out of your way, 30, 40 minutes, that could be the difference between someone saying, I now, my faith in God is strong, or my faith in God is secure, because he was struggling with his faith in his private conversation with me. He was struggling with his faith. Why would God do this to me? Why would God do this to me? And so when he said, I thought you were my angel, I thought, man, that's a powerful statement. So what I'm saying is, not all angels have wings. So you can be someone's angel just by being kind. Just being kind. So you just got to remember, we all can help one another. That's why I don't understand trolls. That's why I don't understand people who are being hateful. People who like to spread hate. I literally do not understand it. I don't understand that type of hatred in someone's heart, because they must go through so much inner struggle for someone to do that. So, but anyway, okay, infestation. Demonic infestation is, let's say, for example, you go out to a location. Anybody here? Can you make a noise? Can you push me? Can you do something? That's the invitation that you have given. So a demonic can attach itself to you. You then go home. Now you have a demonic infestation. In other words, it has infested your home by the invitation that you gave. So religious objects are desecrated. You can hear loud bangings. Sometimes in 3 is a mocking of the Trinity, the smell of sulfur. Animals are terrified. It's an overwhelming sense of oppression, heaviness. But religious objects are desecrated. That is a very big thing with infestation. And then, of course, it goes into what's called demonic obsession and demonic oppression, when it begins to attack the person. So, yeah, so there we go. But infestation, or let's say that you move into a place, a location, you move into a home that has, where there was violence, or where there was satanic rituals performed. Yeah, NDERF. XC. It's NDERF.org. Okay. Yeah, you're very welcome, David. Yeah, that's the infestation. So you got to be careful with that, because once you go out, and is anybody here? Can you make a noise? Can you push me? That's the invitation. And now the demonic has attached itself, and you go home and you have infestation. Or let's say that you play with a Ouija board. Now you've given the invitation, and that invitation, that goes right into infestation. So that's why I tell people, stay away from those things. There's nothing good. There's no such thing as demonic possession. Okay. That's your opinion. I would agree with you if you were right. Here's the deal. How much are you paying me for the show? Nothing. How much do I get paid for this ministry? Nothing. How much have I ever charged for this ministry? Nothing. You mean you pay out of your own pocket? Yep. How long have you been doing it? For over 2 decades. Well, you're doing this just because you like to go travel for 10 hours and spend money out of your own pocket, and you just enjoy it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Some people. Yeah, that's what I like to do. That's what I like to do. Here's the deal. I'm not here to convince you that demons exist. I'm not here to convince you. Jesus already said they exist. So I don't have to convince you of anything. I'm here to help the families who know they do. So there it is. Oh yeah, you were demonically oppressed. Oh, that's terrible. Thank you very much. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you. And again, thank you for the 165,000 likes. That is so awesome. So I appreciate that. Can a person be haunted? That's a great question, David. When you talk about can a person be haunted, you're really talking about can a person be oppressed. So objects or houses can be haunted. A person has an oppression or an attachment. You see what I mean? So, for example, you play with the Ouija board, you make the invitation, and the demonic comes through, attaches itself to you. So you can have an attachment. When that occurs, what's called a prayer of deliverance. Now, that can be prayed by laity. So laity can pray over a person, a prayer of deliverance. Any Christian can do that. But that's different than what's called the solemn rite of exorcism. And so there's a difference between the two. Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow night, and for open mic night, I don't know if Miss Woman will be here tomorrow. We'll have to see. I don't know. Oh yeah, footsteps have actually happened. That's a good way. Nikki, footprints have happened with human spirits, but have also happened with demonic. But with demonic, it's not footprint; it's bangs. It's to intimidate you. It's to frighten you, to terrify you. Okay, Chris, what are your thoughts on people who are born mediums? I'm going to say this, and people don't like this, and that's fine. I don't care. See, I want to make that point. Like Kendra, is this the forehead filter? Kendra, I'm going to pray for you. I really am. That you choose not to be so hateful. When I've done nothing but spend my life helping people. But I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. Okay. Okay, so like bangs, loud banging on the wall. Sometimes it'll be in 3. The floor. But see, when you're dealing with a spirit, like a human spirit, I've been in locations where you could hear footprints or footsteps, but they weren't so loud that they were almost intimidating and terrifying, but you knew something was there. When you hear a demonic is doing it for the purpose of intimidation and to scare you, to frighten you, to terrify you, to break down the intellect of the person. And so that's really what it does. And that's the sole purpose of breaking down the intellect and will of the person, to terrify you. And it is terrifying. I mean, if you're home by yourself and you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea about the paranormal, you've never been taught about the paranormal, and you hear these weird noises, it is scary. And that's why I do this ministry. No, that's a great question. Can the demons actually love? Absolutely no. I don't care whoever tells you, listen to me, and Ash, no, they cannot read your thoughts. They cannot read your mind. Demons do not love. Demons cannot give you help. Demons will not love you. Demons will not protect you. Demons will do nothing but destroy you. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a liar. And I don't, they're either lying to you or they're truly, unbelievably uneducated in demonology. And then they have no business teaching demonology. Anybody who tells you that you're going to be a friend with a demon, that is complete ignorance, total ignorance, and it's misleading people. Do not ever fall. Okay, Mr. President, don't ever fall into that trap. Never. That's right. Demons cannot love. They will not love. They are aggressive. And people, here's the deal. People say, demons, oh, that's so funny. It won't be funny if you ever actually went through it. Because if you're going to laugh at the existence of demons, and you're calling Christ a liar. I don't care what you call me. I mean, I whatever. I've been called everything but my name. But when you say demons don't exist, then you're saying that Jesus is a liar. And if you want to say that, that's pretty damn dumb. That's pretty stupid. Because again, that was a ministry that Jesus established to his disciples. It was an important ministry for him. So if you don't want to attack Christ, you probably wouldn't want to attack demons in the as far as the existence, because Jesus said they exist. So, for those of you who are on Spreaker, I'm going to say good night to you guys. Yeah, believe it or not, I can't believe we're already. Goodness gracious, that's crazy. Also, I want to remind everybody that later on this evening at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have night prayer. I'm going to stay a little bit longer on TikTok. So I'm going to do that TikTok for a little bit. We'll see how things go. For those of you who are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Clapper and TikTok, I'll be here tomorrow, of course, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we just chat. I'll answer your questions in just a second, TikTok. For those of you, I always tell you this: your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. Remember, you're priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and God bless you. The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.